Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the book Refuge. And today I am bringing you romances with pregnancies in them. So this is a combination of a couple like oddly specific tropes people have requested, but I never did have enough recs for each of these to make a video. So we're mixing them all together in this more general one of books with pregnancy in them. So in general, most of these are going to be accidental pregnancies. Some of them are from one night stands, some of them are from people they are currently with, and some of them are not the hero's baby. So first up, I want to say before we get into any of these, that some of these, this is a spoiler, like the ones that it's an accidental pregnancy, like midway into a relationship, or in the case of one of these, is actually like the second book in a series, specifically one. So some of these are spoilers, but I will start with the ones that it's not the hero's baby, because that is one that someone asked me for an oddly specific, and I do love reading that, but I only have a couple to recommend. Something I also want to clarify, please, if you have recommendations, put them down below. Don't assume it's because I haven't read it. I know some people will be like, oh, this one. And part of the reasons why it might not be in the video is I only put books in these recs that I've given 4 stars or above, because I read a lot of books, so that helps me narrow it down. So it might be a book that I rated lower. It could be one that I just forgot, or it could be one that I haven't read yet. So please share your recommendations down below, because whether or not it is one that I need to read, or maybe I've already read it, but other people who come to this video, sometimes these videos get seen years later, and they can look through the comments and see other recommendations that I didn't make. So enough business at the front. Let's get into these. I like to keep these recommendation videos a little shorter than some. And we're going to start with books where the baby is not the hero's. And of course, we're starting with a recent 6-star read of mine that I absolutely loved. And it finally is what kicked me into filming actually 2 videos that I'm filming back to back today because this book has those tropes. So that is When the Earl Met His Match by Stacey Reid. This is shiny, so I'll try to hold it in one way. This one, we have our heroine who, she is from a well-to-do family, but she has fallen in love with her piano teacher, who is definitely not of the same class as her. And they have been intimate, and she finds out she's pregnant, and her parents end up buying the man off before, and he doesn't have too much of a backbone. He also isn't from the aristocracy, so the amount of money that they offer him is, beyond his wildest dreams, actually. And she actually has this future earl that she doesn't know he's a future earl. And when she finds out she's pregnant, her mother is going to try to have her taken care of until she's had the baby and baby farm her child, and she is just so not going to do that. And so there's this, like I said, this future earl that she's been writing letters to, because he had been looking for a bride, and he had put this very awkward and abrupt listing into the newspaper, and they've been writing back and forth, and she knew that he was looking for a wife, and so she decides to kind of throw herself on this person's mercy and show up at his home, again not knowing that he's a future earl, and that by coming to him already 5 months pregnant at this point, that she would be asking him to accept a child that's not his own. Now this hero, who is also a speechless hero, he's mute. He uses sign language, or, what's being used at this time, which is sign language, but they don't necessarily call it that in here. And he just completely welcomes her into his life. Now, he does say, oh, this is completely just a marriage of convenience, and it won't be anything more than that. But he is actually the child of a woman who had cheated, and his father loved him and his siblings, even though they aren't his by blood. And so he doesn't really have a problem with that part at all. What he does have a problem with is he's slowly like falling in love with her. So I spent the first 5 minutes of this talking about this one book, but like I said, it's the book that inspired this video for the most part. And I just absolutely love Hugh and Phoebe. And this book just stole my heart away. It's fantastic. I love it so much. Then we have one that I'm actually super glad I found this book. I found this one at a used bookstore, which was so cool. I love when I go to a used bookstore and I find indie books because it's just so rare, specifically in my area anyway. But we actually have kind of like a throwback book for me. Like I hadn't read this one in a while. It's been a few years and it came up on the list. And that's Moonlighter by Serena Bowen. So this one is kind of interesting because it like sidesteps the Brooklyn Bruiser series, but it also like is considered like fitting into that series as well. But this one is about our hero who ends up being kind of a bodyguard for this woman named Alex. And what I really like about Alex is that she shows up in Brooklyn Air, and she had been kind of a casual business associate and hookup for the hero in that one before being with our heroine. And she has gotten pregnant by someone who is not the hero from that one. Thankfully for that story, is not, but he's not the greatest guy. And so she is finding out she's pregnant, and that she will now be tied to this man forever and really doesn't want that. And so she is on a vacation in paradise and this guy ends up needing to keep her safe. And it has to do with, you know, the man who may be the father of the baby. So this one doesn't go through as much of the pregnancy timeline, if I remember, but I still thought it was a good one to bring up if you want one where, you know, the hero is choosing to stick around even though it's not his kid, which is great. And then the third one that I have for that is actually a novella by Talia Hibbert, and this is Damaged Goods. And this book fits into her series, which I totally just forgot the name of this series, but I loved this novella. Honestly, this novella is like, I think, my favorite book in the series, because the woman is actually the like, so I don't want to set up the whole thing, but basically this heroine is kind of like the other woman, sort of, in a scenario from the first book in the series. But when some information comes to light about the man she is with, you know, information that comes to light because of the heroine of the other book, she realizes that the father of her baby is an abusive asshole and she doesn't want him to have anything to do with their child. And so she basically runs away and stays in this small town, and then it's a romance with, you know, she's from, I believe, a life of privilege too, and she, like, her family, of course, wants her to still be with this guy, and so her kind of choosing to cut all of that off and it just be her and her baby is a very, like, brave step to take, and is kind of, like, it's kind of a big deal kind of thing. So this one, there's not much to it, so I won't say more than that, but this has some really beautiful aspects as well. This series also has some great diversity. There's usually some like mental divergences in this one too. I don't know if this one had that, but I just really love Talia Hibbert and the stuff I've read of hers, and this is a great one that fits into this category. The first one I want to mention, and I mentioned this at the beginning, this one is book 2 in the series where the pregnancy is happening. We find out about the pregnancy in the first book, but the second book continues it, and it has a really good grovel from the hero, and it also has a lot more of the pregnancy of the heroine, and that's going to be Mafia Darling by Mila Finelli. So this is the one where I read Mafia Mistress and I thought Fausto was just ridiculous, and I didn't think Frankie was that great either, but I saw some really good potential in her, and there's this cliffhanger that part of it has to do with the fact that she's pregnant and something happens, not to the baby, but something happens. And Fausto, he needs to get his shit together. And so Mafia Darling, I just loved so much because I loved seeing him really be confronted with a lot of his ways, because I mean, this is an age gap. He's a bit of like an older hero, and he should be acting more grown up than he is in this story. But I adore it, because Frankie, when she finds out that they're pregnant and the way Fausto treats her, she really is like, I am not going to be a doormat. I am not going to be like other Italian women who just take this. You're going to shape up or we're over. And I really appreciate that her, there was those parts of her that were already there. She was always a little bit, she was always feisty and push. But who she becomes for the sake of their child is really beautiful, and I love that. Okay, so then another one where they are like kind of together. They're having a secret relationship and then a pregnancy comes about, is the way I'll say it. And that's Broken Fighter by Maggie Cole. So this one is actually a best friend's brother, but it's really interesting because they're best friends between the Russian and the Irish mafia. And our heroine, I think this one is, I know the hero is Boris and the heroine is Nora. And of course, the O'Malleys might be friends with the Ivanovs, but that doesn't mean that having their sister involved in the mafia that way would be great, because they mostly kept her out of it. This is a series that it can be a little frustrating in how much they try to keep their women out of it, to the point that it causes a lot of problems in their relationships. But this one I really liked because there is this, they really know each other and they are really worried about upsetting her brother. But when their feelings become so strong, and then when this pregnancy happens, it's really kind of like, well, who else would you want to be with your sister? Like, you're never going to think anyone's good enough. And yes, I might be a part of the mafia, but at least I have the skills and the family to take care of her. And I really like that aspects to it. So yeah, this is book 2 in the series. You can start with Ruthless Stranger, or you can start with this one. They all kind of have plots taking place at the same time, because we do get like flashbacks to, them knowing each other for a long time. So there's that. Okay, then I have one that doesn't fit into really like any of the categories, because it is a fan fiction with an accidental pregnancy, but it is a super like interesting one. And then the rest of the ones I talk about will be like one night stands that turn into a pregnancy in the book. And this is The Potion Master's Baby by Snape's Goddess. Yes, I do have a beautiful bound copy that my friend Mel made for me. It's absolutely gorgeous. She's amazing. No, you can't buy your own copy of this. I'm sorry. I have to say that every time because people will want it. But anyway, this one is interesting because Hermione is also a teacher at Hogwarts now, and she wants to have a baby. And so she has purchased some sperm and is like going to inseminate herself. At the same time, Snape is running some tests. I can't remember what it's for. It's been a little bit since I've read this fic. But he's running some tests on his sperm. And so she grabs the wrong sperm out of the staff fridge, which we're just keeping the sperm in there, and she inseminates herself with Snape's sperm. So that's why this is a Potion Master's Baby. She was going to be using a random wizard that she had chosen from like a book or something like that. But now that the pregnancy has taken, she's like, well, I'm not going to, terminate this pregnancy and then try again. Like, this could be my one shot and I'm going to take it. And Snape is kind of like, well, I want some kind of say in this because, I want to be involved if it's my child. So this is a pretty quick one. If I remember to, I'll list it down below. But otherwise, you can go to an archive of her own and you can look up Potion Master's Baby by Snape's Goddess to get yourself a copy of this. Okay, now, like I said, the rest of these are going to be one-night stands that turn into more than that. So The first one I want to mention is another one that I have been loving lately, and I bought myself a copy. It is by far the biggest Claire Kent that I have, but I've been raving about this book lately because it is so, like, simple in plot, but the emotional weight of this story just, like, hit me so hard because I just love all the little moments. And that is Nameless by Claire Kent. And this is a one-night stand actually after a funeral that they both attend. They knew each other when they were younger, but they definitely have taken, you know, very different roads. Even though they both work in law, she is a law clerk and he is a very, like, high-powered, expensive lawyer. And they have this one-night stand. And she finds out she's pregnant, and so she does tell him right away, and she's like, you can be as involved as you want to, but I don't want you to be involved in the case of just throwing your money around. Like, there's some things you can pay for, but, like, I want to be independent. And so there's a lot of, like, that strife, but also this has a hero who completely falls first. He falls so much for this woman who's carrying his baby and this baby, but, like, he doesn't know how to express it. So there's a lot of, like, emotional constipation in this book, but it's so real and beautiful that I love it so much. And, I just love Claire Kent. I think she's so talented in getting that, like, awkwardness into a story while still making it so sweet and natural at the same time. I don't know. I adore it. So highly recommend. Then we have Fallen Jester by Devney Perry. This one I think is book 5 in the series, and, like, I do recommend you read them in order, but if you absolutely don't want to, like, there'll be enough context information to make it work. Like, you'd be okay. I do highly recommend that you read in order if you can, because it would make your life easier, let's just say that. But this one is, we have our heroine and we have one of the biker dudes and they have a one-night stand, and then she has worked up the courage to finally come back and tell him, and he does not react well because he doesn't think he could be a good father, and so he kind of wants to, like, chase her away and not expect anything from him, where really she was just wanting to give him a chance to be involved. And so this hero, he frustrated me a lot, but I also had a lot of compassion for him at the same time, because, I mean, these are biker dudes and they've had a lot of things go badly in their life. And, like, I kind of understand him wanting to protect her and their kid from that. He just doesn't always do the best, right? But yeah, I believe in him. Okay, then there is Getting Played by Emma Chase. This one is nice. This one is also part of Audible Plus. You can just listen to this. But this is a teacher and his student's mother. But he is a drummer in, like, a, like, pickup band. And so she gets a night away and she's able to, she's actually, I believe, already a single mother. Yes. Yeah, she is, because I just explained that. Sorry. I'm confusing myself. So anyway, so she gets a night away and she's at this club and they end up having a crazy night hooking up. Then it's a whole, like, 7 or 8 months later, and her and her son now, like, live in this town, and he's her son's teacher. And, like, I guess before they had, like, lived in a different town over or whatever. She just hadn't met her son's math teacher yet. And then they have student conferences and she comes in super pregnant, and here's this guy she had a one-night stand with. Now, this was a case of, like, I think she didn't have his full information. You know, it wasn't a case of, like, I'm purposely keeping this a secret. It's like we didn't have each other's information. But the hero totally jumps right in, and these ones were so cute. Like, I really loved this series of, these were Audible exclusives originally. They now since have books to go with them. But I really, really enjoyed them. And this one was no exception. It was very sweet. All right. Then we have Seducing a Stranger, aka A Dark and Stormy Night by Kerrigan Byrne. There are 2 titles for this because this is book 7 in the Victorian Rebels, but it is also the first book in the Good Girls series. So this one is about Sir Carlton Morley, and I love him. He is someone we see throughout the series, sometimes chasing our Victorian Rebels, sometimes working with them. And he also has a darker past than we originally know. Like, he has some secrets floating around. And in the beginning of this book, he goes undercover in this kind of like brothel situation. And in that situation, we have Prudence Good, who she is going to be forced into a marriage with someone she doesn't want to be married to. And she decides to lose her virginity at this like masquerade happening at this, you know, sex club type place. And so her and Carlton actually do it, and neither of them knows who each other's are. Because there's even another layer. She's actually his boss's daughter, because she is the daughter of the police commissioner, or whatever it's called here. And he gets invited to her wedding, doesn't know that it's her. And then at her wedding, her fiance gets stabbed, and she's caught holding the knife. And Carlton and her father, like, are the ones who come in and see this. And, oh, also, she just found out that she's pregnant, and it would be with this guy's baby, or which would be with Carlton's baby. So, like, this one just has so much happening. And that's in the first 2 chapters of the book. So, Carlton, of course, needs to find out who really killed her fiance. But also, he wants to protect her because he thinks it might be her, and this is the mother of his children. So, oh, that's right. They're twins. She's having twins. That's right. Okay, then the last one I have to talk about, perfect, is Another by Fiona Cole. And this one is so good. So this one is about, I think this is Karina, and I really felt for Karina because there is an earlier book in the series, and she was actually engaged to someone else, and he discovers that he's bisexual and actually ends up cheating on her and leaving her for his childhood or college best friend, when he, you know, kind of awakens to his sexuality and realizes how much he loves him. And so because she wants to get over her broken engagement, she, you know, goes to the sex club that she helps run. There is the voyeur club that this series goes around. And she has a blind date with him. And they don't know each other's last names. And they have a one-night stand, and then 8 months later, she meets him again in a meeting because he's going to be investing in the business, and she's 8 months pregnant and hadn't been able to contact him. So this is another case of pregnancy, wasn't able to contact the person. And, you know, they have a lot that they need to work through because he wants to be involved. She's like, I was fine to be a single mom. I'm very well set up, and I don't know you. I don't know if I trust you to bring you into my life when I've already been brokenhearted before by someone who promised they would love me and be involved. So it's very interesting. But anyway, those are some recommendations with pregnancy throughout the book. Now, I didn't touch on this in like each one of these, but something that I very much love with a book with pregnancy is the care that the heroines get from the heroes. Books that have that done super well, like, is Nameless and When the Earl Met His Match, as well as like The Potion Master's Baby. I think there's some great care that happens during pregnancy. So I just wanted to tack that on at the end, that's something that I love. So thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know your favorite books with pregnancy in it, where the heroine's pregnant for a good portion of it, or it's dealing with like the birth of the baby as well. I understand that this is a tough topic for some people and not books they enjoy reading. And I would also say, like, I don't enjoy secret babies. You'll notice that very specifically with these, they were either women who couldn't contact the man, or they tell them immediately when it happens. I really, really dislike secret baby, except in very specific situations. That's why you'll probably never see me make a video about secret babies. I might have some random ones throughout there that have it, but in general, I don't enjoy someone keeping it a secret because there's rarely a good enough reason for me. Unless it's mafia or he's a murderer, you gotta tell the man. You gotta tell the man that you have this baby. You gotta do it. So thank you so much for watching this. I will see you next time, friends. Bye.